And yeah, uh, one more Tuesday, beginning of March. Indeed, a new month. We finished February with a lot of queens, but today we will start the match with the March month with Big King, if I may say like that. And indeed, I was thinking how to welcome to him, but today he shared a very nice news, so I can say that I'm happy to basically introduce the top three, if I may say like that, influencers on the LinkedIn network in the Balkan area, if I may call like that, especially in Serbia. So I would like to welcome also. I forgot to set yet. Indeed, he is also MVP. Do not forget on that, and a lot of other stuff which we will hear tonight. So I would like to welcome tonight Milan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martin, for the invitation. We finally met after some time of talking about
Indeed.
it. Yeah.
Indeed, from January and all that stuff. Not January, December, I think it was. Indeed, December it was, I would say, and all that stuff. Thank you for accepting the invitation, first of all, and welcome, and hope we will enjoy and inspire and motivate a lot of other people, if I may say like that. And yeah, not everyone to become influencers, but looking at your experience, I would say to get half of your experience, if I may call like that.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting word. Maybe we can talk about it. Yeah.
Indeed. I must ask you how is going with the AI, and I know that you have a big, strong background from software development and all that stuff. What is your view as a so much experience, if I may say, first of all, from experience side, and then from the technical side, maybe on this AI and everything that is happening around us, if I may call it like that.
I have a PhD in AI, so I did my PhD in 2010 when AI was not hot topic like it is today. I worked on expert systems, semantic web, and some other technologies that were back then like very popular to some extent, but nowhere near today. And today technologies, especially LLMs. So
we're talking 15 years ago.
Yeah,
am I correct? 15 years ago.
Yeah, I did this from 2005 to 2010, and these 5 to 6 years, I did this research on my master and PhD thesis. So it was also interesting, but it was not so popular like it is today. I would say with much wider audience, even without these like circles. Back then, we were like more working in this AI bubbles where people who are know about this we worked like together. But today, everyone is like it became popularized, much more popular, and now everyone is doing something like with AI. Yeah.
So 15 years ago, I must ask you, what was your, how it's called, thesis? I would say, yeah, it's thesis the name. I think what was your PhD and all that stuff. How big is the difference, Milan, if I may say, 15 years ago and now? There is a lot of improvement, but I'm just trying to imagine on what you were working, testing, and creating all that stuff. Because, yeah, maybe, when you finish university, it's, how to say, the project or the exercise that you need to do, it's less researching and all. But in PhD, I can imagine that 5 years and you were searching, doing this, that, and it was not famous at all. Let's be honest, nobody knew about it. Yes. Let's call it like that. How big is the difference, if I may say like that, 15 years ago and now? Because you have that experience, and when you were researching, you find that a lot of stuff. When you see that and now what is happening, is it a huge difference, if I may call like that?
Yes, it's huge difference. I think mostly what brought the biggest differences are like these cloud technologies, because they brought us much more opportunities to build such big systems, because they need, as you know, a lot of computation, memory, and everything. Back then we didn't have that, so you had some, you could have some kind of a big system in some places, and that's it. I didn't have access to such things, but today I can spin up very fast like some machines in the cloud and have opportunity to train models, to play with models, to do everything in that regard. So it's much better, and it's always like people say like standing on the shoulder of giants. So I would say those giants are for sure cloud technologies, but also some kind of a research that was done in like last 20, 30 years in this particular field. Like we are talking mostly about LLMs, because people think like now AI is all over the place. I don't agree with that. I don't say that we are like breakthrough on AI on all fronts, but on this one particular front where like we have these LLMs, we are good at that currently. But they're like AI is much wider thing than that. Of course, before that we did a bit similar to machine learning, which was again it is not like again widely popular. It's mostly narrow field for people who are doing that. Now we are like with LLMs, but they are like AI is really a wide field, and there is much more to be done there, you know.
Indeed. So you want to tell me that when you were doing your PhD, it was some type of a server where you install all the libraries, Python or whatever framework you were working, and then the LLMs, and what was used for AI in that period, if I may say technically, the tools, what you were using, if I may call it like that?
Yeah. I was working back then on some kind of rule engines. They're like on some kind of rule engines and some kind of modeling languages that enable us to use rules in some processes, in defining processes. Those processes were mostly choreographies and orchestrations. People who are like architects, they know these terms to some extent. So mostly it was in that part of area. So we worked on some new models here in Belgrade together with my mentor was in Canada. We'd also worked with some team from one German university. So we were actually international group working on very strong on a few different things back then. But you know that was research, and that research continued after I left when I finished with my PhD, because I decided still to stay on the like in the industry, you know.
Yeah. Wow. I'm surprised completely, and I didn't. Yeah, I read the blogs around on the internet. Yeah, there was some type of a conference in 1956, you know, and all. But now, when you hear from a real person, real example, 2010, we are talking about what I was doing in 2010. Yeah, I was learning Windows Server 2008 in 2010. That is what I was doing, to be honest with you. And now you're saying you were working AI in 2010. So how nice is to hear this experience. I must be honest, it's not a lot of people what you have achieved, Milan. Really good job, mate. I must be honest with you. Really proud that I talked with person that was working on AI in 2010. I must be honest on that one. And how is going so far with using the AI for you? And if I may say like that, and if I saw good, you have a company also. Do you use within your company with all that stuff that you're doing on a daily level, if I may call it like that?
Yes. We are using actually AI technologies like on all levels, I would say, because we are a small team. We have like team of 20 people, totally in our company. So we are a small company, but we are working on a big product. So you know, when you have something like that, you need to find the leverage, and I would say AI is kind of a leverage to some extent. So we use we use AI on 3 different levels. So of course, baseline are those LLM tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and all others. I actually personally I use all of them. I use Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT. I use all of them, and why I use it? Because I use them for research, writing, and more stuff. But also our software engineers also use them. That's one level. Another level are tools like similar to Bolt and to like some AI tools that can help us build stuff, and also some people using those tools at the level of IDs like Cursor and similar technologies where they like speed up our development very fast.
Yeah. Wow. I'm full surprises now tonight. Really nice to have you here. I must be honest with that. But now looking at everything that you do, I must share. For those who are not following Milan, feel free and also subscribe to his newsletter. Usually it's really best practices what you share and all the latest news. I must be honest with you. I really like it. The type of email where you can quickly scroll up and just see in your email. I know there is a lot of newsletters that people are sending, but again, from a quality perspective, I really like, which is specific on that topic, these, just as a bullet points, and it's really nice. So thank you about that. So for people who are watching or will watch later, feel free to subscribe on Milan's newsletter. It's really interesting, so you will get all the latest update. And of course, you need to follow him on LinkedIn. We must, how much? 250, so 500 minimum till end of the year, something like that, if possible. For people that will watch later, it will be, I think, nice. Indeed. So now listening all of that stuff, and I can imagine that you're full of that. And I heard something. One bird told me that you didn't start as a software developer, but you started something like me, if I may say like that, as a sysadmin. Am I correct or wrong?
Did I start it as a software developer? Actually, yes, I started as a software developer.
No, as a sysadmin.
Actually, yes. But it was like I was a sysadmin, but I would say in my previous life, maybe to say like this. Yes. Because I had interesting life. When you live in these countries on Balkans, you have always interesting life, because I was hit 2 times by war. I was born in Bosnia, and then they hit the war. I moved to Serbia. Then when I moved here, then we get also another war. We get this bombed by NATO, and when I finished my high school, I did not go immediately to faculty, because I was not sure do I want to study. I had some thoughts, and then I spent almost a year doing a sysadmin stuff.
Reinstalling computers, I suppose. Windows 98, I suppose, or 95.
Let's say that was 1999. So it was like 25 years ago. I think it was XP probably.
Yeah.
But actually, while I was studying, I was doing this every day, because to have enough money to study and live back then here in Serbia, I needed to work with my father, who was also software developer for 40 years, and also he did a lot of playing with hardware, because he was an electrical engineer. He liked that. So I assembled probably more than 200-300 machines. I installed everything. Who knows, like these zip commands in DOS. I lived in DOS. I would say I lived in DOS very much. Then Windows 3.11 came, and I very much remember Windows 3.11. And then, of course, we had this big Windows 95. It was big event for us. I remember this like it was yesterday, because I think this changed a lot in our industry back then. I would say this machine today, this Windows today, is pretty similar to that one. Didn't change much in the meantime. It was like interesting times to be in this area, and I learned a lot, because I messed up with hardware, but also with software, and I learned from the ground up. So from hardware, operating systems, and then later when I went to my faculty, I learned how to program stuff.
Yeah. What was the toughest thing with the hardware? I must ask you, because I was struggling with the pins, even the small pins, that were sound, or what it was, the chips there. And I remember that I think when I start, indeed, the pins was when you need to make the computer. And then the struggle was about to figure it out which driver need to be installed. But then I figure it out in device manager, basically, and you can see the ID, but in that period was not the internet, so you cannot Google it, if I may say like that, and all that stuff. But what was for you, if I may say, like a toughest thing when you were making the computer, the hardware stuff? Because the
Well,
pins were not
everything.
so simple, Milan. It was not so simple, the pins, the small ones that need to be attached from every component there. And it was a cooler there, also the ventilator and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So to do not touch the cables and all that stuff. But what is your experience? Did you, for example, the pasta also on the processor that you need to put on top? That was also, you must be careful to all
Yes.
the, let's say, the chip to really adjust on that on the motherboard and all that stuff. What was
Yes,
your experience?
not an easy task, but my father was really a master in that. He was an electrical engineer, and he knew that part very well. And later he wrote a few books on that level, like developing this stuff with external, so with software and hardware together. So I learned a lot from him. So I didn't need to make a lot of mistakes, but it was hard. In pre-internet era, everything was hard, because to know anything, I need to go to buy some kind of a floppy disk or CD-ROM to load it, to check something, to learn something. It was really, really slow time and hard time. Even with these 56K modems that we got later, and it was really, really pain to do anything back then.
Indeed, it was a tough task. So I must agree with you. And what was the funny thing I must share, on hardware side, on software side was when I think, the first one that I reinstalled was Windows 1998 basically. And I remember you put the floppy, you write format C, and then you open the CD-ROM, you put the CD there, you press enter, at the same time the computer restarts, so it must put the CD and basically to start loading the boot files and all this stuff. So that was, from this perspective, it's quite funny. And I agree fully with you. It was going slower than now. Let's call it like that. It was quite slower. And it was quite interesting to see all of these challenges and new things you see every 2-3 years, not every month like now. For example, we see a lot of changes every month basically now.
Yes. Well, let's say I had the luck that my father worked in the only institute in former Yugoslavia that built in that company was called Energoinvest. I think it's called still today. It was the largest company back then who built the first PC machine in Yugoslavia, which was like a copy of some IBM machine. Because they have some contract with IBM. So from early days, I had my PC on my desk. So it was before 1990. Like during 80s, I had PC machines, which was really, really hard to get back then. And also some books from Prentice Hall and some publishers back then on C, on some different levels. So I was always like kind of reading and checking what is this. This is interesting. While I was like a kid. And somehow all of this, sucked me in this world, because back then, without internet, without anything, this world, seemed to me like some kind of a big game to play.
True. I think your father is quite proud on you. I must be honest with that. What I listened in these 20 minutes already. So he was IT, and now his son is IT, which is quite nice to hear all of that stuff. But basically, and the interesting is you can see the big difference on what he was working and on what you are working now. How big is the difference? I would say like East and West difference completely. In the past was everything black and white, the black screen and the commandos and that command line. But now everything colors, cloud. You don't need to have a computer here. Basically, you can do from the phone and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So it was quite interesting, basically, the whole journey. Even to be honest, for me, I remember in the high school, I didn't eating my lunch or breakfast. Depends which shift I'm at school. I was spending money for 64 megabytes of USB. If you remember those, that was around 7 MP3 songs. So you can copy there from some friend that he have a better computer and more money. So he have the fastest computer in that period, Pentium 4 or Pentium 3, something like that. So it's quite a big and long journey. and quite interesting to hear now from this perspective and discussing and sharing, yeah, with the younger people, indeed. So after that, if I may say, how it went for Milan to be, how to say, to become a software developer, learning on the development stages, if I may call it, because from hardware, then I suppose installing Windows, this, that, and all that stuff. Now you need to, because why I'm asking you this question, I started like you, hardware and all that stuff. Yeah, it was 2003, something like that. In the first, during the summer period, 3 months on basically custom configurations. So you attach graphical card, this and that. You install Windows, and basically that's it. But you have a lot of movement and a lot of tools you need to have to arrange all of that. And then you need to sit down. For example, in your experience, I suppose you need to come down and now focus on the keyboard and just, open, I don't know, Notepad, HTML, maybe. I don't know what was your first language, but I'm just asking how was the balance in this case?
Well, for me, like my father was primary software developer, and all of this stuff with like hardware we did in our free time. Actually, he did this in free time. So as he was a software developer and worked with all of these people in institute, like I was big, like I had maybe 15 years, but and then some people from his job came to us and they like spoke about stuff, and I was like a big, I wasn't like a small boy, but I did not understand nothing. So it was for me interesting, even though I was really big, like 14, 15 years, that I like listened that he speak with some people, but I did not catch anything. And it sparked something in me to to be kind of interested in to go in more into this direction. Also, I was an avid gamer. I played all the games in 1990s, so there is no single game that I didn't play. And I also understood that all of these games are made by software engineers,
True.
And like multiple such things was like. It's not always like just one thing, but multiple things pushed me to go to study, computer science. And actually, I learned to program when I went to the faculty with some subjects back then. It was like I think we started with Pascal and then C, C++. So I learned a few programming languages during my studies. Yeah.
But what was your first game? The first top 3 games from 1990s?
It's I had also games from 80s. On this diskette. So there was like Congo and some like pretty basic stuff. The major game for me, major, there was like two major games in the 90s. The first one was Prince, 1991. Prince was a big thing back then. So playing Prince in 1991, it was really, it changed a lot. Then there was like Wolfenstein 3D, I think in 1994 or 1995. That was also like the first 3D point shooter. That was also a big thing for me. And then later there was some like Warcraft and similar games, but it was later during 1990s.
Yeah.
These two games like were back then, when it was really hard to especially in Serbia to came to these games, it was really a big thing for us as kids.
True. Prince, I'm not sure if it's the same that after 2000 I was one. If I remember good, one game called Prince. Wolfenstein I remember, but how to say, from 2000 that version, but not this one for sure. But Prince, somehow I cannot imagine what was the game about.
It was I think it was 1898. It was like first released. I think I got it in 1990. It is like a famous game by Jordan Merchner. He's like a famous guy in this gaming circle. He also wrote a book. I think I wanted to buy it last year. How he created, because back then no one know how to create such game. And he managed to do it. And then, of course, then it was like Wolfenstein 3D. I think released 1992. I probably got it in 1993. It was created by, I would say, the most famous developer in this in gaming, like John Carmack. He's like a genius. So this was also like a big thing. Later there was like Doom and other games, but there was no such big jump like it was back then.
Indeed, and this was the starting, if I may call like that, with 3D and all the stuff that in the gaming industry and blah blah blah. Indeed,
yes,
indeed,
exactly.
indeed. Whoa, such a crazy stuff! Wow, how long time ago? This is long time ago, indeed. So back to the track and the software development. You started with Pascal and C++. So and all the stuff. What is the growing for Milan, if I may call it like that, on the software development side, from Pascal, C++? For me, it was Java, I must be honest with you. And then it was C# and blah, blah, blah. So that type of style on the university, if I may be honest with you. What was for you, if I may call like that?
For me, on university, we used... let's say before university I knew a bit of basic because I kind of played with it. Then on university we learned Pascal, C++, and Java. And Java was like back then, like starting of 2000, the main thing. And I learned it, and actually I started to work in Java with my first job actually, and I think I use it for like first 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
We had a team of Java developers back then, but then we decided to switch to .NET C# in 2009. I would say why we decided to do this. There were like a few things. The first thing is like, as I worked in big corporation here in Serbia, electrical power industry, we had a very good contract with Microsoft. We had like access to this. All of these tech channels. We had like premium field engineers working with us. We had like a really strong support from Microsoft back then. That was the one thing. The another thing was, and of course, licenses, contracts, and everything. The other thing was like the Java was a bit in chaos back then. There was like a lot of open source libraries that we were dependent on. It was not like streamlined. You had like 3 people working in Java, all 3 knew different stuff, and we wanted something that is more streamlined, like in the tech stack sense. And Microsoft brought actually this for us with Microsoft Stack already. It already grew from 2002 to 2009. I followed that growth. And then we decided to switch totally to Microsoft technologies back then.
In the meantime, nothing PHP or that type, Python and all that stuff? Nothing?
No. Like I worked mostly on enterprise systems back then.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you work on enterprise, because I worked in a large company, a lot of data, a lot of stuff, a lot of people, a lot of customers. Java was the best tool back then for such systems, and of course then I continued with C#. It was mostly like we built mostly internal software, but like it was like a big company, 30,000 people, so it's not like small company. So it was not so much web based, because we had also web applications, some desktop applications back then. We had also some different kind of integrations between different systems, ERP system. I think we had back then 42 different softwares that we used in our company, and we needed to integrate with a lot of those software and also actually we wrote those integrations. It was like glue work somehow between different vendors, to get some data or analysis or I don't know reports and similar stuff.
True. And in the enterprise, usually it's internal site. It's not basically used mostly web, as you said. And even back in 2009, it's quite, how much, 10, 15, 16 years ago, basically, which was quite not internet, how it's called? Not public. Yeah, it was not communication with internet. I want to say it was completely closed circle within the organization and all the stuff. So enterprise was quite close. There is still a lot of closed, if I may say, enterprise companies, but there is a lot also that took the cloud and working in Azure or some other stuff. Indeed. From 2009, what is Milan doing? What is the next step, if I may call it that?
Yes, then we switched to like a Microsoft tech stack. That was the first thing, and also later when Azure kicked up, we picked it up also very fast because I see myself always as some kind of I would say I'm kind of a lifelong learner and early adopter of things, and I also really like to catch stuff when they I don't wait that they become like a standard to try them. So we really moved really fast to .NET technologies, and then later also we use Azure for our mostly because back then we had all our data centers, but we still used Azure for testing purposes and some similar stuff. Actually, back then, who remember Team Foundation servers and stuff to build software, source control, everything that preceded this Azure DevOps stuff. So I was like, I did all of the like administration of those installation
on the local servers. On the local servers, basically.
We have like some big racks of servers.
Yeah.
So. But also we experimented with Azure. So from the early days of Azure, I think it was 2012, 13 back then.
Yeah.
We experimented with Azure. So it was back then. On my private side, I started to work back then also. Somehow I tried to play with mobile apps. So kind of some kind of a freelancing. Back then, I started in those days also to play with Android, developed a few mobile apps. It was also interesting to me just to learn a bit more about this, because I never, I was always on the enterprise side, the website. I didn't have opportunity to touch mobile, and that was the opportunity to touch mobile. So in the next few years, I also played a bit and developed some important apps in that regard. One of those apps is still used today. I think half of the prepaid mobile market in Serbia still use that app, something like that. So
nice.
I tried, to learn much that I can in that side.
Yeah. Did you touch iPhone a little bit, macOS on that side, or just Android?
Back then it was only that. I touched iOS a bit later. I think I was back then again on iOS on I think 2018 or 19 when I primarily started to play with Xamarin technology.
Xamarin. Yeah.
And then when I played with Xamarin, I needed to build for both platforms. Then I touched them a bit, and I learned also iOS side. So I would say I know also iOS pretty much. Yeah.
I think for iOS it was called Xcode ++ or X++, something like
Xcode. Yes. I also built also some private apps for me. Because my kid, when it was a baby, used an Android app for sleeping,
the sound.
White noise. And she used it. Then when we switched the phones, iPhone didn't have that app. So what I did, I built my own app for iOS. I decompiled the Android app, took that sound and put in my iOS app, and we use this app until today.
Wow. Very interesting idea, I must be honest with you. I needed to ping you a couple of years ago. One of the kids is still listening. He's 2 basically, and basically we are still playing from time to time, if I may say like that. During the night, during the day it's okay, but during the night we play the white noise about that. Indeed, and usually the funny thing is, now it's we switched to YouTube a little bit to explore that platform, because previously was Spotify, and now when you play on Spotify, because of the advertisement, it stops, the free version. So somebody needs to stand up and just press play again or skip the advertisement.
The reason why I built my own app for that. And
yeah.
Just do simple thing. Just play this sound
all the time. Yeah.
Stop until half an hour, so you need to restart it again.
Indeed. Yeah, that is a good one. I think you need to publish on the market. It will be quite famous, believe me. Because even now, back then in Macedonia, but now also in Netherlands, I see a lot of people, the baby is born, and basically after 1 week, immediately, white noise, the application, and usually it goes on Spotify. But if they see this type, I think it's a business, if I may call it that, as additional application. It's really nice. You need to publish that. What if I just put some pictures there from babies and that's it? Nice. How Milan is starting in the cloud, I wanted to ask. After the development and all the stuff, I know in my view, the cloud was the best solution for the developers. Because, for example, in the past, when I was some type of a sysadmin, or if we can call it like that, for any developer, for example, in my experience was I need to prepare a virtual machine for you as a developer. I need to configure the server, the local repository, the version of the libraries or whatever is there, and all that stuff. What was your feeling when the cloud started? I know on the beginning was also, let's be honest, it was not that it was easy peasy. It was quite expensive, but also from usage perspective, it was quite click, and basically you have virtual machine in 5 minutes. You have application service in 2 minutes, if I may call it like that. Did you went immediately with the development, or first the small baby steps, if I may call like that, Active Directory, Enter ID now, and then later to the other stuff?
Yes, as I said, as we were I was working on for the biggest companies.
Yeah.
We had strong contract with Microsoft, and we have I cannot remember now, but we had a lot of free of Azure, free Azure. Right? Yeah. And I think back then, I think it was 2012 or 13, we started, of course, with Azure VMs. So what we did, I think the first thing we did, we used Azure VMs to run our apps and also databases back then on those VMs. So it was primarily IaaS solution.
Yeah.
So we run everything on those VMs and just use it internally for testing purposes, mostly for us, not for clients. In back then.
And customers and all that stuff.
Yes, also because it was the learning period for us. There was not so much tutorials on Azure, and you could not learn a bit. There was no books on that, and so mostly those internal materials. How that was called, tech, something we got some for Microsoft some big big books tech. Something
TechNet, I think.
TechNet, yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I tried to learn from that. So we learned a lot back then. Then it went for the next few years. We started to use more and more back then services. Then 2017, I switched the companies and I started to work on the project for a Swiss bank. And of course, when you work for a Swiss bank, you don't have cloud because they don't want to keep data on public clouds.
Indeed.
Then it was a period of maybe 2 or 3 years that I did not actively work with cloud, but I somehow felt in that period, it was 2016, 17 to 2012, the cloud is the main thing, the main thing that was happening back then. So I started really pushed a lot to learn. I run some local and also on the group level some kind of learning groups, and then we spread that more and more on the cloud technology. So all cloud providers, not only Azure. I was like Azure lead. We had also AWS lead. So we started and pushed it a lot to learn about cloud technologies back then.
Indeed. Now, from this perspective, I must, because you said you have also AWS and Azure. What is the main difference in your view? I know there is a lot. I mean, the terminology, the naming of the components, but in your experience, for example, because you have more experience than me also, and different with different clients, enterprise clients, but also smaller clients, I suppose, and all that stuff. What's the first choice, if I may call it like that, for example?
I mean, that's always.
I know on our side, on that side, on the Balkan, usually, for example, I must be honest with you, for me, usually, whenever we go, Martin, why should we go on Microsoft? Because AWS, it's either cheaper, somebody was saying, either this and that, and all that stuff. In my view, the prices are really close. That's my opinion. Depends what you're using, what type of services. Both cloud providers as the main one, if I may say, both of them have pros and cons, but when you come to the price, if it's about money, I think they're, plus minus, I'm saying 1-2 euros, something like that. It's not 1-2, but as an example, it's quite a small difference, if I may call it like that.
Yes, I actually built, if anyone wants to check, I have on my GitHub a comparison of cloud services between Azure, AWS, Oracle, and Google Cloud. You can check. And I also have Azure cheat sheet with all Azure services. How to say this? I think it's like with any other technologies. You choose the thing that you know the best. So if I know Azure very well, I will hardly select to work with AWS. Maybe only in the case if like I started on the project that already have AWS, or maybe there is really some kind of a thing, some kind of a service that AWS has that Azure don't have, or like there is big discrepancy between maybe pricing or some other characteristics that we want. But usually people specialize in one kind of area and they know this. As you said, all of these services are mostly similar. All of these public cloud providers provide similar service, but there are some, keywords. There are some changes. You need to know how to do this on AWS. On Azure is maybe a bit different. On Google Cloud, still a bit different.
Indeed.
Yes. So what I see that people mostly select technologies they are mostly familiar to, and they stay for like probably prolonged time working with these technologies. They know better.
Yeah. Indeed, fully agree with you. But I want to hear from your experience because, for example, for me, the experience was because I was a big fan of Azure Arc, by the way, and you can connect all the clouds with that if you have with the agents. So usually that's why I was choosing Azure. I must be honest with you. But fully, I didn't know, for example, that depends on the knowledge. I know in how it's called internally in the companies, this is happening. For example, exactly what you said. How much of the knowledge or what type of knowledge the team it have, we will build the application on that framework, that stack, and all this stuff. But for example, I didn't know for the cloud. That's why I asked it from your experience. How is the view and how the clients are looking at that, if I may call like that. But again, it's I think based on the experience and the knowledge within any organization, any project, any lead there that is there.
Exactly.
Indeed. Exactly. Indeed. After 2016-17, you finalized the Azure and you start using it and all that stuff. I think you're switching company in that period. And if I understand correctly?
Yes. That was the period when I switched company, as I said, and I started to work on some kind of project for Swiss bank. There was no like cloud. It was kind of an internal cloud, but not these public cloud providers. So, but I, in the meantime, I pushed a lot on this side, as I said, try to learn on myself because I felt this is important. These things are like big that is happening currently, and I try to learn a lot. So I, tried to catch it. then I started also maybe 2000, around like 2012 to consult, to become a consultant a bit also the part then, and then I consulted on some projects that were also that had cloud, that had Azure. So I also dig a bit deeper and learned a bit deeper. So like from that point, and then later I was like strongly bound to the cloud, and I like we use it today also for most of our projects are on the cloud.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's nice. From how is coming after that? I suppose that everything that you're doing and publishing all that stuff, how it's coming that Milan is becoming MVP a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was interesting thing because I would say in that period of time, like from 2009 to 2020. I was primarily .NET developer, in this world. I from 2018-19, I started to write a bit more about my blog first, about .NET technologies, Azure stuff. I worked also a lot internally, so I built these internal company cycles around Azure cloud technologies in my company, which was like a medium-sized company, 2,000 people. And then when I started to write more, like in 2022, 22, when I started to write a bit more externally, so I also, of course, started to write more about those stuff, primarily about .NET technologies and also Azure and similar. So, of course, guys from I think I was once before that proposed to be MVP, but it didn't went well. I think it was 2018 or 19, because I think back then MVP was a bit different. I think back then they wanted, it was needed like that you go to conferences, maybe to help some trainings, to be a bit more active in the community. I mean, it is still today stuff, but I would say that MVP movement in Microsoft started to recognize like few years ago that people like me who are writing on like different mediums have a big footprint, because for example, I go to one conference that I do from time to time. I have like 3 weeks. I present in front of 300 people, but then I publish some text and 1 million people read it. So I think that someone smart from Microsoft detected this. Like, this is like some text about .NET technology or Azure. 1 million people read this text. So this is an impact to the community. Even though I did not build, local community, I did not go to conference, but this still, make an impact to the community. And
true.
Someone from, I think, Microsoft internally proposed me. It was in 2023. And that was the first year when I was selected like as an MVP from Microsoft Technologies.
Wow. Well, no, but it's really inspiring that you failed the first time, I must be honest. And it's usually what I see, that the people, if they fail once, then the second time it's really tough to get back to the road. And what should I do now? I do everything. What is this?
I consider myself one of my main characteristics is to be resilient to failures. I see this as my strong side. So when I fail, I never go down. I just try to learn something from that, and then I move on. So I always do like this.
True, and that's quite inspiring. And for why I'm saying all of this, because now we're discussing almost an hour, and you mentioned so many things from 2000, for example, and even some new MVPs were not even born in that year, and you're working from really long time ago, and working with your father, and everything built it. AI PhD in 2010, and all that stuff, such a big topic. And then you're not MVP and you're not this because of as you said, one person read it, but I was presenting in the whole, how to say, in university or some local meetup or a conference or whatever, there was a 300, but because one person, just Martin, read it, Milan's blog, and basically that's it. You cannot be accepted and all that stuff, which is sometimes it's really painful. And that is what I like it. You come back on a strong level and basically, yeah, let's do it again. Let's see what was missing previously, and all that stuff. So it's quite, I must be honest with you, inspiring listening now you, because I can imagine you 20 years of IT experience, C#, Java, all that stuff, and you're failing. Yeah, some guy said, yeah, sorry, Milan, next time, more luck, next time, which is quite disappointing, but you come back on the right one, which is quite nice to hear from you, to be honest. In the meantime, I didn't ask, did you took any exam? Did you ever take any exam, or it was more self-learning, improving, creating local project?
I took all exams.
Really? Because
Yeah,
usually you're not sharing the exams, if I notice correctly.
No. I took. Let's say I forgot to mention this. When we switched back then in 2009, 2010 to .NET Technologies,
Okay.
actually I found one local Microsoft trainer
Okay.
that come to us, to our company, and held 3-month course on C#, .NET, SQL Server.
Okay.
2 years, I think 2010 and 2011. And
Okay.
then we passed all of this, there was like an MCP, Microsoft Certified Professional. There was
Professional.
different, I think I passed like 2 or 3 exams back then.
Okay.
Then
MCCA, I think it was an MCCP, professional and associate. I think it was back then. If I remember.
Professional, yes. There was like mostly developer certificates. Then fast forward, I think 2019, I passed Azure fundamentals, and then afterwards Azure developer exam.
Okay. Yeah.
Then 2021, I prepared Azure DevOps, Azure DevOps exam and Azure Admin exam, but it was kind of a Corona time. Something bubbled up back then, and I did not go to exam, but I prepared it fully. So I went through all the preparation materials and everything. Because I run this learning group for Azure. We had like prepared everything for these certifications, how to pass every certification, and I also wrote about this on my newsletter. I have text. It's called "How to Learn Azure," where I have all of these hints, tips, and tricks how to pass the exam. Nice. And but in the last few years, I did not go to any exam. I didn't have time. But some people from my company, some engineers, they went to some of these exams. I think exams are a good thing in general. Why?
Yeah.
Because there are a few things which is good about these exams. First, when you start to learn some kind of a technology, you don't know what you need to know about. Like, okay, you are Azure administrator. What I need to know exactly? But here is like someone made for you what exactly you need to do to know for this exam. This is the first thing. The second thing, especially when working in corporations, I always say to people, when you pass this exam and you get certification, this will stay with you. It is your personal, it's not company thing. And also, we also had some clients that happened not so often, but happened that wanted to see that our developers are Azure certified. That was like kind of, leverage that we show, okay, these guys are expert, they have also certificates, Azure certificates. So that was like the second thing why I always propose to people to have that. And also, I think even for junior developers and junior people, it's a good way to learn something, with all of the certifications,
Indeed. And it was quite nice. And I think it's not under NDA data, but it's a lot of gossiping. Maybe you were lucky, I must be honest with you. Before COVID, before it started, I took the, if I remember good, AZ admin in that period or something like that. And there were AZ 400. There were a practical things. So it opens a virtual machine and you need to create the stuff. Click now, virtual machine or virtual network and all that stuff, which was quite tough. I must be honest with you. You need to sign in, and it's a lot of stressful for people in that period. Yeah, it was stressful for me. It was not first exam, but now it pop-ups a virtual, how to say it, from Hyper-V, the window for a virtual machine. And Azure portal, please sign in. On the left side there was a username and password. Sign in, create a virtual network, like the applied skills, something like that. Now if you have checked on the Microsoft Learn, it was exactly the same on the exam, with a scenario: create virtual machine, virtual network, peer to virtual networks, and all that stuff, which was quite a little bit. I learned theory, not the practical, and all that stuff. So it was quite complicated in that period. So, but it was, I remember, exactly before COVID and something, and after COVID, they stopped that because of the resources, because virtually, we went everyone virtually and from home, and the resources were needed, if I may say like that.
Yes, exactly.
What's your plans for the future? I must ask you, because you're working on AI from 2010. Now, what's the future for Milan? I must ask you like that. It was quite, because everyone, for example, even the previous guests, even privately, some colleagues and experienced people like you, what I discussed in the last couple of months. Yeah, I'm looking now to AI to do this, to do that, to do this. I said, okay, but now I have Milan, which I'm quite surprised that he worked on AI from 2010. What's the next step for Milan, if I'm asked like that, mate?
I would say there are a lot of things that is coming, not only AI in the AI field, but also in some other fields that are interesting. I would say AI is a big thing, important thing, but it's a bit of hype also. This hype will calm down after some time, as all hypes went and calm down. So I think currently, when the hype starts, everyone is talking about it, everyone is like doing it, but there is also a lot of not so good things about AI, and after some time only good stuff will bubble up. All of the stuff will be forgotten. So
so I will cut you here, stop you here, and because I'm a CISO person now, I must be honest with you, in a big organization, and I'm aware on all of this. What is your main bad stuff, for example, from AI at this moment, if I may ask like that, the question? Or what is your experience with the bad things with AI? For example, I went on one conference a couple of months ago. They give an example. For example, if you write now to ChatGPT or Copilot in that period, that was last October or November, how to make a bomb, it will give you risky violence and this and that. But if you write the bomb with the ASCII code, BOMB, with ASCII code with the arrows, it will give you a clear explanation how to write a bomb, basically how to make a bomb. Sorry, not to write. So what is your experience?
There was also that example with Windows license codes, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that's similar. Yeah, I mean, of course, the probably the worst part. There are like I think the biggest thing when you have some tool that, like, if you have a hammer, everything is ahead of the nail you need to hit. Now I think we are pushing that everywhere, where it is needed, where it's not needed. That's the main thing. The main thing is to detect. I always think about this Pareto principle, 20-80. So where I need to focus 20% to get 80% of the results. So where is the most reasonable? For example, I will give you an example. We needed to write some document in our company about something. It was kind of some proposal, architectural proposal, and one of our developers went to ChatGPT and it generated everything, almost everything. So he gave the prompt, GPT generated everything, and that was so shitty. We needed to abandon this totally, even though he tried to revise it a bit once, twice. It was too bad. Why? Because all of this generated stuff, especially in LLMs, are there is a lot of things people first don't know prompt engineering well. They just try to with some simple text, simple sentences. That's not even good. Then the
I
generated
must tell
text,
you one today on coffee, one colleague was writing on ChatGPT. Can you please tell me? I really like with you. Can you please tell me where I can find this? And I said,
exactly.
okay. Can you please?
Exactly. And then there is a lot of fluffy stuff. There is a lot of hallucinations. For example, I researched a bit some field. Let's say,
Okay.
and I asked one of these GPT tools to help me, and he like created some text and some references to some papers or
Okay.
some references. When I went to check, there were all made up references. Nothing exists. There was like names of papers, authors, everything was made up. Nothing exists in reality. So there is a lot of things. So I think the first thing which is important that people try to understand how these technologies really work under the hood. This is something I call engineering mindset. I have this for like whole of my life. I like playing with Legos. When I have some machine, I always like to break it down to some parts to see how this thing works, and then to use it. People think just this thing will now make everything for me, but you actually need to know what this thing can do and cannot do. When you learn these two things, then this tool can be really maybe powerful to use, but you need to know in which cases it works, in which cases it doesn't work.
True. And it's I've shared I think a couple of episodes with somebody also. I saw a lot of people, Milan, copy pasting directly from the I think I think even I felt ashamed that I was in behind that person. Visual Studio Code, Control A, Control C, and then put in ChatGPT. Can you adjust this code? La 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 la. And I said, but there is a secret, now if we need to be a friends and discuss, there is a secret. There is a application resource group, or there is this application A. Why that's all, if I may say, confidential for any organization? Yeah, don't worry, this is under my account, la la la. And I said, okay, if it's under your account, then I think we don't need to discuss further anymore, which is quite a big risk, if I may say. And the people are really using a lot of AI tools. They're just providing data everywhere. I'm afraid in 2-3 years ago, or 2-3 years from now, to be completely honest with you, on what I'm seeing, what people are doing with ChatGPT and all the stuff, but just because on exactly what you said, they don't have the knowledge how to use that.
Exactly. I mean, this is something that everyone should know, that if you did not touch anything, those LLM tools will use those things you provide to them to actually learn based on those info. In simple terms, they will use your data will probably be available for others to see it. And there are a few things how to, of course, cope with that. There are some companies that have these internal systems. They are like not on the internet, so they use it. Of course, you can turn off this like learn on my stuff, on this LLM. So there are a few things, but this is again the thing I said. You need to learn about these tools first before you start to use, but people are mostly they just rush to do something. They don't want to take a step and learn a bit about it.
Indeed, I'm saying like driving a car. You enter to the car and you press just the gas pedal and not the other one. I'm forgetting the English term. You don't press that one and then to put in first gear, you just press the gas button and boom, the car is just at the same place. It's making a big sound and all this stuff. Wow, it's really funny. I stop you on what is your goal for learning in the next couple of years now, with so many experience with AI?
Well, regarding my goals, I'm really, I'm someone who really learn a lot. I'm interested in many things. So I cannot pinpoint one single thing that like I'm focused on mostly. But what I want to focus, for example, in the next like half of the year or this year, are mostly like some data technologies, big data stuff, also some kind of infrastructure stuff, which is also important to me. So I tend to I have two levels of learning. I like, as I said, I'm early adopter. So I'm always learning about stuff which are coming on some kind of a bigger level. And then there is this another level called intentional learning. So if I need something in the next few months, so I need it for the project in May, I will then use learn really on hands-on. So go tutorials to learn how to use it and everything. So I'm always learning on these two levels.
Okay, and because you mentioned it, maybe I can. Yeah, maybe you have read somewhere, but I can share. A couple of months ago, somehow here this type of news, they are coming faster, if I may call it like that, or I read it somewhere. Something called platform engineering. Currently, it's quite famous. Platform technologies. I even bought the book. Let me share. Yeah. I bought it a couple of days ago, so maybe it's quite interesting. So maybe as a recommendation from me to you, if I may call like that. So it's quite interesting how that goes. And what I see, I must be honest on this, because I was learning Databricks a couple of 6-7 months ago, and they have quite good platform engineering, especially for AI. They have their own system. I don't know if you have been working or seen that, but it's quite interesting. These two things that you mentioned, basically platform engineering and indeed as a new thing, as a technology stack, Databricks is quite, how to say, doing good stuff, if I may call like that.
Yes. We have now. I think from the last year we have Databricks office here in Serbia with developers.
Wow, nice.
I actually wrote a review of this book a few years ago. I think platform engineering is also important continuation of the DevOps movement, I would say, and or let's say one part of it. And I think it is really one of the interesting things in this area, which are like happening right now. And I, of course, one of the things that I also push and try to learn a lot.
Indeed, and that's nice to hear. I must be honest with you. I'm just scrambling here to see now. That's something else. I was thinking your name is somewhere here. Then I would be really with like this, to be honest. That's why I was looking here and I see one stamp, so I was expecting. I was thinking that.
I wrote a review on my newsletter, actually.
Yeah. That's nice. That's nice. What's my last question is basically because we are over 1 hour. It's such a nice people. Oh, the time flies. I must be honest with you, and I think we have a quote in our side of the countries there that what is nice takes less. No, takes less indeed. So it's really the time went quite well. So my last question is to you: what is your book recommendation for the people that will view and watch this video later on? Or what was your last book that you read?
Well, that's the probably hardest question for me because I'm avid book reader. I have like a big library online and also offline, and I'm reading a lot. I read every month a few books. The last book I read always 2 books, one technical, one non-technical.
Okay.
Yes, and if like people are interested in technical books, the book I read again was this. I read it like 5 to 6 years ago, but I was back then. I didn't know some stuff, so I felt somehow I need to read it again. So I read it again. This is one of the most important books for software engineers, like probably in top 3 they need to read.
Wow, that's a good record. And the non-tech, I'm curious on that one.
Yeah, non-tech. I show non-tech because I'm doing coaching. I coach people. This is, for example, one book I read last week about coaching. It's called
Yeah.
$1 Trillion Coach, about one guy who coached, actually, he coached all of these big CEOs of Apple, Microsoft, and all others. Interesting for me because I'm also doing coaching for people, and for me it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
This was such a wonderful conversation. I don't know how to say. The biggest thank you goes to you and kudos. Keep the good work, what you're doing. Really, thank you again for accepting this invitation and be guest on this show. And I hope that we will meet one day each other in person and we can drink one coffee or we will eat cebapi in Belgrade. I think that should be the best, best option. And then we can drink and do the stuff. So Milan, thank you one more time. Keep doing the great job. And so far, I'm wishing you 500,000 this year. Next new year and next year I will invite you again just to say I have 500. Thank you guys and all the stuff. So I will wish you a nice evening. Enjoy and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for the invitation, Martin. Once again, I also wish you all the best with your podcast and your work. And let's get up when you are here in Belgrade. Just ping me and we see each other.
Very soon. Indeed. We will stay each other in contact. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah. See you all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.